comments regarding what we saw yesterday during these protests, we will have Commissioner Les Miller come to the mic to speak, as well as Hillsborough County NAACP President Yvette Lewis and Representative Fentress Driscoll. I'll step out now so Sheriff Chad Chronister can share a few words with you.
Thank you, Crystal. I know everyone is hurting. I know how difficult this is for our entire community. Last night was not reflective of who we are as a community. Last night is not the way anyone should react to hatred or racism. And let me be clear. The actions of ex-officer accused of murdering George Floyd are repulsive, and I pray he is brought to justice. As leaders, we must listen to those peaceful voices protesting this injustice, and I promise to listen. But last night's rioting and criminal behavior has no place in our community. Today I've called together these great community leaders and law enforcement to ask anyone thinking of assembling to stay home for everyone's safety. We saw last night that there are those who will hijack peaceful, lawful protesting and incite acts of crime and acts of violence. Criminals infiltrated your ranks, silenced your voice, and negated the power of peaceful demonstration. These criminals want to take advantage of your cause and simply want to create chaos. We, all of us, instead want to listen and want to create change. We will not let these criminals stop us from listening to your voices. That is my promise to you. Your sheriff's office is here to protect you. We must and will protect all law-abiding citizens along with their property. Last night we saw property destroyed, and today people who returned to those businesses to return for their jobs were left to clean up the remnants of those crimes. I won't and we cannot tolerate this. I'd like to talk directly to anyone thinking of taking advantage of this moment to break our laws and further incite violence or commit crimes. If you break the law, we will arrest you. We will lock you up. If you harm others or their property, you're going to jail. If you continue to betray the cause of peaceful protesters by inciting panic and looting, there will be consequences. I think we've been crystal clear. The men and women of our sheriff's office will carry out their mission to restore law and order with professionalism and precision. You will not continue to spread fear and lawlessness in Hillsborough County for even one more night. So the choice is yours. Obey the law and respect your neighbors, their families, and their property. Anything less is unacceptable. At this time, I'll ask the chairman of our county commission, Les Miller, to please come forward and share some words. Chairman.
Thank you, Sheriff. We all know that George Floyd was murdered. There's no doubt about it. That was a murder. And the gentleman that, we want to call him a gentleman that kept his knee on his throat for over 8 minutes has been arrested and charged with third-degree murder. Hopefully that will change. And we're hoping and praying that the other 3 or 4 officers that stood there and didn't do anything about it would be arrested and charged also. But peaceful demonstration is what message we should be sending. Martin Luther King did peaceful demonstration, and it opened the doors for many of us to be where we are today. I'm a 69-year-old black man that grew up in Tampa. I know what it's like to be stopped by the police or the sheriff. I know what it's like to be questioned for no reason at all. I know you're hurting. We all are hurting. I'm hurting. I have 3 grandsons and 3 granddaughters that I talk to each and every day to tell them what they should do and what they should not do. But this is what's going on last night. It's uncalled for. We should not have it in our city, and we should not have it in our county. Peaceful demonstration, your frustrations getting out by signs carrying and saying what you have to say And sometimes it's tough on law enforcement to hear that because you're right up in their faces. But when you're done with that, go home. We do not need the looting and the crimes that were committed last night. Somebody lost their job last night. At Champs, some mother who was probably working 2 jobs lost her job last night. A black man that owned Shoe Mountain lost his store last night, and jobs were lost. We're not going to tolerate that in our community. The sheriff has said he will arrest, and we will stand by him with those arrests. But if you do peaceful demonstration, letting people know what needs to happen in this community and across this city, this county, this state, and this country, Lord knows we'll be right there with you. But when you start to violence, we will not be there with you. We will stand by and let the sheriff and the police do their job. Ladies and gentlemen, when the sun sets and your demonstration is over, go home. Please go home. We hear you. Those of us in authority, we're doing the very best we can to make sure that does not happen here, and we understand what needs to happen, and we'll be working on it. But please go home. Those that won't go home and want to do the looting and the breaking in and breaking the laws, you go into jail. You go into jail. So please understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand the pain. I saw you before. I'm a 69-year-old black man. I've been called a nigger before. I was called a nigger when I wore the United States uniform of the Air Force. I took an oath to die for this country. I was called a nigger in Illinois. April 19th of this year, because I put in place with the emergency policy group a curfew in this county, I was called a Nazi nigger. And I know the pain, I know it hurts. But that's not the way to get me upset, and I'm not going to get upset that way. I'm going to continue to work as hard as I possibly can as an old man to bring peace, harmony to this county and to this city. And I want everyone out there that's peacefully demonstrated to do the same thing. But if you break the law, you go into jail. That's the bottom line. Sheriff. I'm sorry, Mr. Vet Lewis.
Hello, everyone. The Hillsborough County branch recognized the tension, the emotion created by the response of George Floyd. We encourage folks to protest and respond to the situation in a rational and productive manner. We also appreciate the pressure being felt by local leaders, law enforcement. We recognize and appreciate the measured and intentional response to what occurred at University area last night. We are opposed to looting, destruction, and violence. The most effective response to the community, for the community, is use the tool to go out and vote. Show your strength at the ballot box. Let your voice be heard. Make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Florida State Representative Fentress Driscoll, and I stand here with my community leaders and colleagues today to ask for a stop to the violence. Now, I appreciate the young people, especially the young people who have stepped up to make their voices heard. We know that in the history of this nation, student protest has gone a long way towards pushing for change, whether it was in the civil rights movement, the anti-war movements. We need student voices. We need young people to rise up. And when I look at the imagery and I see the diversity in the crowds that are rising up to let their voices be heard, it actually makes me proud and think about how far we have come as a country. But after the smoke settles and the dust settles, we have to think about what is next. What do we really want out of this? What we don't want is to hurt and harm the very communities that we've been trying to build up. When you tear down a Black-owned business, you are hurting the very community that we have worked so hard to try to build up. Think about your actions. They always have a consequence. What's next? You just heard the president of the local branch of the NAACP tell you to get out and vote. Get out and vote. I know that's a ways away. In August, we've got primaries. In November, we've got a general. But you know what you can do? You can take your anger and translate that into action and make sure that your friends are registered to vote. It costs nothing. If only you knew how powerful your vote is. There is nothing more than a politician fears than an educated voter with a vote. Don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to have your friends use it. You can do this. Be the change that you want to see in the world. It is not an impossibility. We are standing here united because we also want to hear from you. We want to hear from you as we think about and formulate the what's next. Get in touch with the NAACP. They have meetings every month. They have a Facebook page. Send a message. Let them know. Reach out to me. Email me. Call my office. We want to hear this as we head into the next legislative session. What is it that you want? You've got a county commissioner here. You've got people from the city. What is it that you want? We have a mayor who was out there marching with the protesters. What is it that you want? We're here. We want to take that anger and that frustration that we all feel and translate it into action. Because it's time over for words. It's time for meaningful action. I know that I am committed. I know that the people behind me are committed. We want to see these positive changes. You know, I'm from Polk County, which is nearby. Polk County has its own issues with a history of racial injustices, but raised by parents who grew up in the civil rights movement. What we see today is not spontaneous. The murder of George Floyd was not spontaneous. These protests are not spontaneous. These are long simmering tensions that have been building. But now that they've been brought to the forefront, we have to think about what's next and work together to build something stronger and more unified. I believe we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Driscoll, and everyone who spoke today. Sure appreciate everyone showing up today. You, each and every one of you, are what's right with this community. And I commend you, I applaud you, and I'm so grateful to stand here as a partner as we make progress and improve our community together. Thank you. At this time, if I may, I'll open it up for any questions for myself and anyone standing here with me.
Sheriff, how's your deputy doing?
Which one?
How many got hit?
Unfortunately, we had 2 that got struck last night. 1 got struck with a brick in the back of the head, suffered a concussion. Luckily, nothing long-term or serious. We had another one that firework was directed towards him, hit him in the facial area, and I think some light burns where his uniform started to catch fire, but he's going to be okay as well. I appreciate you asking.
Were those both at the University Mall where we were last night?
Yes. Yeah, both incidents occurred in front of the mall where it became very violent last night.
I was out there all night. I was there when there was about 7 deputies in front of an area where 2 people were detained and glass was broken, and it was 7 or 8 deputies, and there was about 100 people in front of them, and they held the line, and it was way before things really escalated. What do you say about those 7 deputies that held that line in the face of, there's more than 100 people, there's 500 people around them?
It seems like I'm constantly standing in front of the microphone talking about how proud I am of the men and women, the 4,000 men and women of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. But I was out there too last night, and I was standing not too far from them. And I tell you what, to watch their professionalism, to watch how patient they were, to watch their restraint, made me the most proudest I've ever been as a Hillsborough County Sheriff.
The champ sports, I got in there as well right after, right when the fire started. I watched them set the fire, watched them break in, watched them loop the foot action. I was the only person there with a camera. There was no fire, no police, no deputies. Sort of, what is your protocol for having to figure out whether or not you can handle that amount of people, and were you guys outnumbered?
Yeah, at one point we were simply unnumbered, and first time of being a deputy with the Sheriff's Office for 29 years. It's the first time I've ever had to do an all-call and ask for every available unit in our entire 1,100 square mile county to respond to the University Mall because the crowd had become that violent.
We're hearing about 1,000 people are expected to turn out tonight. What are your plans to sort of keep that crowd under control?
Yeah, great question. We'll have a protocol in place. Our crowd management team is ready to go. We certainly have a robust uniform presence that will be out there. I've also been in contact with surrounding county sheriffs. They've agreed to provide any type of assistance. They're simply a phone call away. So we'll certainly be out. It seems like it's going to be a long evening, and we will monitor the crowds, monitor the behavior, and make the decisions along the way. But I can assure everyone watching, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is ready. I'm only hoping that the voices can be heard, their avenue of expression can be peaceful.
Was there a failure to have the numbers in place before you had to make that all call, but things just went nuts? I mean, did you guys not anticipate that type of violence?
You can never anticipate. You never have a crystal ball. You can never make any type of predictions, and we still have the remainder of the county to protect. There's no protocol saying we're going to be in this area. The protesters, the looters, the rioters, those who want to harm another by throwing rocks and bottles, you never know where they're going to be. So you have to have a very flexible and fluid operations plan to be able to respond in a moment's notice to anywhere in our county, including the city, Plant City, Temple Terrace, the airport, wherever we may be needed. As in the case last night, during the day we were supporting Temple Terrace. Then it moved into the city. We were there as a support mechanism for the city of Tampa. And then they moved across the county, into the county for a short time. We needed help there. We had to have the city come provide help with us. Then we moved back into the city. It seemed like it moved from 30th Street and Bush up to Fowler. They made their way down to Nebraska, down Nebraska, all the way to Waters Avenue until we could finally get them dispersed. And I guess around a little after 4 o'clock this morning, we were able to send some troops home to get some rest.
There was never a call of, hey, there's too many, we're going to let it go. It's just the fact that you couldn't get in there.
Not at this point, and I'm going to do everything within my power to ensure that doesn't happen. It's a charge of responsibility that we have to protect individuals, to protect individual property, and we're going to do everything we can. We arrested 7 individuals last night, and that's because that's all we could arrest and do so safely.
Was there ever consideration to call in the state National Guard or any other outside forces to help?
There was not, and if it was up to me, I don't foresee that happening. I hope that's not in our future as we plan activity over the next couple days. We have enough assets. We have enough assets in surrounding counties. I don't believe there would be a reason. I hope with these heartfelt pleas for peaceful protest that the riots, the damaging of property, the hurting of another human being will stop, and we won't even have to consider that option.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Trying to crawl from an area. My understanding is National Guard are in, they're going to stay there.